till at least one of the victims of the Vesuvius eruption in 79 CE was found with a vitrified brain. In other words, their brain was turned to glass due to the extreme heat. When I was a kid, one of my science teachers would go on and on about the different ways volcanoes kill people and how all of them are the perfect way to die. In fact, she wanted to die from an eruption and was jealous of this specific scientist couple who died separately in the same eruption and kept calling them lucky. Every time I learn something new about victims, I understand her less. Fucking glass brains. Absolutely horrifying. This actually happened in Herculaneum, the sister city to Pompeii. It is wild what actually happened in that city compared to Pompeii. I suggest reading up or watching any Nat Geo special on it. Basically the entire city cooked instantaneously. I don't understand why it's not more famous than Pompeii. It actually seems to be better preserved too. Apparently there is some controversy over this paper. Other experts in this field have written in my non-expert opinion, quite strong rebuttal. Not sure which is more accurate, but I feel it's important to include the other side of this. There is an excellent The Rest is History podcast episode, look for episode 355, released this week, on this eruption. It has a ton of detail about the story of how this went down. Absolutely fascinating. C.E. How did I make it 40 years without knowing this term? Holy shit, love it, I learned something new today. For anyone interested, CE is Common Era or Current Era, a more secular way of expressing AD Anno Domini. BC is now BCE, before Common Current Era. One study suggests 5678 during the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 AD, a victim's brain was vitrified by the extreme heat of the volcanic ash. However, this has been strenuously disputed. 9. I heard on No Such Thing as a Fish the other day that some victims of Vesuvius had their brains expand from the heat so fast that it bursts out of their skulls and their head orifices, so it could be said that they died from an eruption of themselves. When I worked on the excavation in Pompeii, we asked during the safety briefing what to do in the unlikely event of an eruption. We were told to go off in pairs and get into interesting positions for future archaeologists. These tissues are typically saponified, meaning that their triglycerides have been converted to glycerol and fatty acid salts, or soap. Brains usually turn into soap, this one partially turned to glass. What? The people living in the nearby town Herculaneum suffered the most. They were found with ash on the inside lining of their skulls, their brains were basically melted. Just watch the doc on Pompeii on a plane. So, since his neurons were preserved, does that mean that future technology might be able to retrieve his memories? Or at least, some aspects of how his brain functions, if not memories, knowledge specifically. So, since his neurons were preserved, does that mean that future technology might be able to retrieve his memories? Or at least, some aspects of how his brain functions, if not memories, knowledge specifically. Sometimes I feel like a complete glass brain. This will be the way I refer to idiots my wife will judge me for and no one will appreciate or understand but me. I'm okay with this. Any way to tell if the brain turned to glass before or after he was dead? Maybe that's what people mean when they say they experience clarity, it's just their brain turning to glass. Imagine dying in one of the most horrific ways possible for someone to unearth your remains thousands of years later and call you smooth brain to the rest of the world. CE is so fucking stupid. Common Era is a meaningless reference, it's like renaming Thursday to Common Day 4 because you don't believe in Thor. Utter stupidity. So you listen to The Rest is History also, huh? I love them, that TP was so horrific the accounts they read. Pliny the Elder is such a G. So in the last paragraphs it talks about extreme radiant heat, followed by a rapid drop in temperature. And how is the rapid drop? You've heard of Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull, now get ready for Indiana Jonetti and the glass brain. There's a disease that turns muscles into calcium, basically turning your muscles into bones. I wanna melt that glass brain down and blow a bong and get high as fuck off brain bong. How TF do you have glass brain pieces and that's the best you can do for a photo? The Rest is History podcast just had a great episode on the Vesuvius eruption. I'll take things I could have gone my whole life without knowing for 500. Alex. Plot twist, actually was a robot with a positronic brain fighting Doctor Who. Once I had a love and it was a gas. Soon turned out had a brain of glass. This is your brain. This is your brain on Garum. Any questions? Still spooky as hell. The moment of clarity right before the instant mummifications though. So there is no way to push a current through it to reawaken it? I wonder if his conscious remains roaming a lonely glass world. A vitrified brain? Were they working for Aperture for $60? People who think in glass brains should not throw mental stones just went to the exhibit at the museum in Chicago. Mind blown. People always said he had nothing but sand between his ears. That's crazy how it turned into some kind of obsidian thing. Is this how they made the crystal skull from Indiana Jones? What if he's still in there, frozen in time, losing sanity? How do they know it wasn't like that before the eruption? Even with all that was going on, he was thinking clearly. Vesuvius, vitrified. Vitruvian man? Vitri. I bet his last thoughts were crystal clear though.